Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Johnny Figz, and this is the first edition of the Road to WrestleMania Countdown. We're going to go over everything that's transpired over the past few weeks and give a good backstory of all the Wait a minute. What's going on, JR? I'm getting some news here. Look at you, Stacy. Girl, if you don't look like a hot bowl of soup and I got the flu, good God, them legs. Man, I got distracted there, ladies and gentlemen. Anyways, we're going to go over everything that's been going on. Let me check in this book right here. So there are some special announcements that I need to make. We're going to get all into it. This is just the first episode of many more Road to WrestleManias to come, where we're going to cover everything WrestleMania. And this year, it's going to be huge. Let's take a look. As you know, everything has reset, and WrestleMania this year is where it all begins again. It's a fresh start, a new era, but there's more. WrestleMania week. We went from one night to 2 nights. We're just going to celebrate a whole damn week of WrestleMania this year. There's so much action to get into, but we have our first few matches to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. So first of all, I want to say, this is just the first episode. If you don't get selected today, you will be selected in future episodes. Everybody's getting it. But welcome my guest, Hall of Famer, Stone Cold, Steve Austin. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing damn good. It's good to be here.
Well, make yourself comfortable because something tells me we're going to be here for a minute. There's a lot of exciting matchups, and I can't wait to get your point of view on some of these absolute bangers that's coming our way.
Well, I appreciate you having me, and I'll tell you what, I'm going to drink a little beer, and I'm going to just follow your lead, Figz. Take it away.
Well, you heard the man, ladies and gentlemen. Let's jump right into it with a very important match on this road to WrestleMania. It's for the Tag Team Championships. The very first Tag Team Champions of this new era, Proud and Powerful Santana and Ortiz. They won their titles back at Halloween Havoc. They are now the first champions of the new era. AJ Styles and Finn Balor have decided to team back up in one last effort to relive their glory days. But look at this. Ricochet talked the man who trains better than anybody, Evan Bourne, into being his partner. They've reunited, and it's turned into a triple threat match for the AEW Undisputed Tag Team titles. This match is so important because all of these men want to revive tag team wrestling. And ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first. It's now been made official. Sammy Guevara, the Spanish God, will take on his former mentor, Seth freaking Rollins.
Now, I tell you what, Johnny, I was front row when these two went heads up back at WrestleFest, and it wasn't no slouch fest. That might be match of the year right there.
A very good matchup indeed it was. So this is technically a rematch, but this time on a bigger stage. It'll be Guevara's first time at WrestleMania. He's had such a promising young career. He's done it all, but he hasn't beat Seth Rollins. So after that match, Rollins and him became partners. They ended up becoming tag team champions in the old era. Rollins helped Guevara win Money in the Bank. What a match that was. It took Rollins' sacrifice for Guevara to get there. And when Guevara cashed in, he did become the youngest world champion of the former era. It's crazy because Guevara looked up to Seth Rollins so much. Rollins even said that Guevara reminded him of a young him. So when they became partners officially, it made so much sense. Guevara was the world champion all the way until all of the titles reset, so he still feels like he's never been beat for it, and this was last week.
Well, after winning the Andre the Giant Battle Royal, Rollins took Sammy's head off, and he smashed the damn trophy. That's going to be a banger right there. If it's going to be anything like the first one, I can't wait for this one.
Well, that brings us to the match that shocked the world. The rematch of a match many called the greatest wrestling match in the history of our sport. Ladies and gentlemen, it was just over 2 years ago at TNHW where Icon took on Icon. Jushin Thunder Liger took on John Cena. And again, many called it the greatest match of all time. We thought it was a one-time only thing. This match right here absolutely tore the house down. We want to give a big special thank you to TNHW Steinsenberg Customs for sending us the footage here. What a contest that was. The world was buzzing when they heard the rematch was going to happen. Part 2 And you gotta think Jushin Thunder Liger's gonna want some revenge.
You're damn right he's gonna want some revenge. That first one could have went either way. Make sure you go look it up right now on YouTube. Liger versus John Cena, TNHW.
Well, again, we thought it was a one-time thing, but just 2 weeks ago, the world stopped spinning when Jushin Thunder Liger interrupted John Cena. You could tell by Cena's face, the crowd reaction. I was lucky enough to be on commentary for this night. I could not believe what I was witnessing. If you were lucky enough to catch the first one live, then you already know how special it is that we're going to get to see this all over again. The much anticipated rematch we didn't know we needed. We never knew was going to happen, but now that it is, man, this is one that I'm most excited about. Jushin Thunder Liger versus John Cena. Icon versus Icon 2.
Well, I'll tell you something, Johnny, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart. They don't call John Cena old big match John for nothing. If Jushin Thunder Liger don't bring the best, he's gonna lose again.
Well, my personal opinion is that might be what makes him even more dangerous. He's had 2 years for this match to haunt him. He's never lost at WrestleMania since coming to America. But ladies and gentlemen, let's dive right into the next big match. It's the return of the best bout machine, Kenny by God Omega, taking on the man who possibly had the best 2022 of everybody, Darby Allin. Now, the challenge was just laid down a couple days ago, and these two have never crossed paths. This is a first-time match, and we polled the locker room. Out of the people we polled, it's 50-50. Half believe Darby Allin gets it done. Half of them believe that Kenny Omega comes back to form and takes the W. And that brings us to another first-time ever contest. The American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, taking on the best in the world, CM Punk. Now, it would seem as if these two had absolutely no history together, but by listening to these two go back and forth, it seems there's been things brewing behind the scenes for years, and it's come to a head. The no contact order was disobeyed by both. They're out of control. They want nothing more than to severely hurt each other, and it's been announced right here. I've been informed to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, this is going to be anything goes. Well, before we move on to the main event and all of its history leading to it, we have a couple announcements to make, ladies and gentlemen. This WrestleMania is getting ready to be huge, where it all begins again. We're short a few titles. Everything's reset. We had too many titles. We're going to crown Intercont and United States champions.
But this roster's too damn big for one, so we're going to crown another world champion, the AEW Universal Championship.
More information on those matches on the next road to, but the Roman Reigns Challenge still stands, ladies and gentlemen. We've been informed to announce that the challenge still stands. If there's any takers out there, take Roman up on his offer, but we are getting ready to jump into the big one. Let's take a look at what happened earlier today at training.
So both of these men had a very public workouts, and I'm going to tell you right now, I've never seen a look in a man's eye like I see in Bryan Danielson's eyes when he's listening to his coaches.
Danielson has been training non-stop in anticipation for his WrestleMania main event. He's already a technical masterpiece, and they were just teaching him how to brawl. He's brought in Minoru Suzuki and close friend of the Blackpool Combat Club, Eddie Kingston. They were just going back and forth doing this drill over and over. Not that Danielson needs to be a better brawler, but just because he knows that's what Moxley's going to bring. And on the flip side, Moxley has been training non-stop with technical wrestling, submissions, reversals, all that good stuff, as he trains with two men that he's fought in the past and a new trainer in Tyson Kidd.
Well, Stone Cold Steve Austin's telling you to bet your last dollar that this is going to be a match of the night, maybe match of the decade. We already know what to expect from these two men, and they know each other like no other.
And there you see Kurt Angle, the master of the ankle lock, showing Moxley another submission, how to properly lock in the ankle lock, just like Kurt Angle. That's going to be interesting to see how this develops.
Neither one of these two men know the word quit, so I'm curious who you got winning this.
If I had to call it right now, I'd go Moxley. He's just been unbeatable. It could go either way, but let's look right into it. This is the one a lot of people have been waiting on. They know each other better than any other person on the planet. They have the craziest up and down history, and it all started about 2.5 years ago. The first encounter between these two men. IWGP Heavyweight Champion Jon Moxley versus WWE Champion Bryan Danielson, and it was a back and forth affair. Back and forth. Either way, momentum switching until the bell finally rang, and it was a 60-minute time limit draw.
Yeah, but that didn't stop nothing. Like I said, they don't know the word quit, and that's how William Regal got involved.
William Regal, who had a past with both men, calmed them both down, made them shake hands, and got them on the same page. But over the weeks and months, they would bicker back and forth every chance they got till Regal sat them down and took control. He told them he would take them to the top. He slapped them both in the face. He told them they were going to listen to him and he would make both of them better. And that's when they lost both world titles in a tag team match they just couldn't get along in. From that point on, they agreed it would be better if they just sucked it up and worked together. And they started training each other, filling in each other's weak spots, helping with each other's expertise. And that's when Moxley would get his first crack at the Universal Championship. And what a match it was. All 5 minutes of it, because Moxley went straight to the top of a balcony and did only what Jon Moxley does. He raised hell, but it resulted in a trip to the hospital. And not only a trip to the hospital, the fans in attendance were pissed.
Well, they felt like they didn't get their money's worth as the match was called off, but Moxley wouldn't quit there. He came out of the hospital the same night, demanded a rematch, and Ciampa took advantage of it. Few steel chairs later, and Tommaso Ciampa had retained his title.
Well, even though Bryan Danielson was right there, he had a feud of his own going on, a dream match against Kurt Angle, a match that he had wanted for years, and a match that would cost him months of his career, as Kurt Angle would severely injure him, putting Bryan Danielson on the shelf for months. Brand new member to the Blackpool Combat Club, Kyle O'Reilly, wanted to fight Jon Moxley. He said, "We bleed together before we ride together." He wanted to prove himself, and prove himself he did. What a contest that was. Jon Moxley would ultimately win and welcome Kyle O'Reilly with open arms, as would Bryan Danielson, who had currently been training Moxley. But this victory for Moxley earned him another shot the same week at WrestleFest against Tommaso Ciampa. And this time Moxley would strike first. Paradigm shift after paradigm shift. Death Rider after Death Rider. I believe the final count was 4. And Moxley quickly became the third man to hold the Universal Championship. And he didn't stop there. He jumped right into Japan. Went against the toughest Japan had to offer in Naito. That match ended in a time limit draw. They had the rematch. Moxley once again went back to his roots of having absolutely crazy hardcore brawls. That match got stopped like the match against Tommaso Ciampa, and that's when Regal told him, "This has to stop. You're so much better than this." As Moxley wrestled a 60-minute Iron Man match against Evan Bourne, the man that prepares better than anybody. Then a past friend, Eddie Kingston, brought the hardcore extreme right back out of Moxley, what Regal and Bryan were trying to get him to stay away from. Jon Moxley would tell them both, sometimes you just gotta fight a friend to teach them a lesson. And that's exactly what happened. This was an absolute massacre. Special guest referee Mick Foley, as Jon Moxley made Kingston pass out. But the respect was there, and maybe this is something we'll see. All of the Combat Club's associates were there as the two hugged it out. But right around the same time, Danielson had been cleared to wrestle and competed in a Fatal 4-Way where he regained the WWE Championship in his first contest back. Moxley the next night would declare Blackpool Combat Club on top when an old foe emerged. Moxley's toughest test yet, Walter, but Danielson accidentally hit him with a steel chair, and Moxley fully capitalized on it. Now this took a crazy dynamic, as Walter would want to face Bryan Danielson for the championship. That match was crazy, but it ultimately cost Bryan Danielson more than he gained, because it was this very match that reopened the concussion problems for Danielson. It ended in a draw with the disqualification, but after the bell, Walter would nail him with the steel chair, and it was Jon Moxley who was there to comfort Bryan Danielson. Fast forward just 3 weeks later, and Danielson competes against doctor's orders to win his first Royal Rumble and become the first man to win a Royal Rumble as a world champion. He was the WWE champion, and the Combat Club was in full force to celebrate, but this awkward moment happened.
It was right around this moment Jon Moxley realized that him and Danielson was inevitable.
But first, a clash of champions ordered by the new CEO to crown the top dog, Darby Allin and Moxley would come out on top of a crazy contest, and the stare down would happen again. So Danielson made it clear what it was going to be. He was going to challenge the best of the best, his friend Jon Moxley. And for the first time in over a year, these two exchanged words. William Regal had to separate the two.
Well, we didn't know at the time, but the Darby Allin-Jon Moxley contest was for the undisputed championship, the top dog in all of wrestling.
And if anybody earned it, it was Moxley. Now, Danielson had vacated his WWE Championship a few months ago due to injury and time to heal up for Mania. But he had been talked into a match with Seth Rollins at Halloween Havoc, and Rollins took advantage of the concussions, nailing him with the chair. Danielson locked in a leg lock and got the win somehow, but he collapsed backstage.
Well, they had to take him out of the building in an ambulance, and that's where Moxley told Regal, "What do you think's gonna happen at Mania when I get a hold of him?"
Later the same night in the main event, Moxley would choke out Kurt Angle in a blood sport match with his last little bit of energy in his last title defense before Mania, leaving him free for 2.5 months to heal up, rest up, and get ready for WrestleMania. Bryan Danielson and Regal were in the hospital. Kyle O'Reilly was the only one there, and it took a lot out of Moxley. With both men injured, the championship match at Mania was threatened, but they talked Triple H into letting it go. 2.5 years in the making, they agreed to go to war in the ring, and this pleased Regal. He told them they were finally ready, and that is the main event of WrestleMania.
I'll tell you what, that one right there gets my blood boiling, but I want to say thank you, Johnny Figz, and I'll definitely be here for the next road too.
Well, it was an absolute honor to call this with you, Steve. Thanks for coming. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was the first episode of the Road to WrestleMania, and we still got a few more coming on this road. I'm your host, Johnny Figz. Right here to my right, this is the man, the legend, Hall of Famer, Stone Cold Steve Austin. It's been an absolute honor, and the next time you see us, we'll be announcing more matches. We'll see you on the Road to WrestleMania.
What?